On today's Man of the Apes, I swear I did not kill that hamster. He just bit my thumb and it looked like I did.
They greenlit the sequel without a story in mind. They just wanted to equal an unexpected gold mine. He said, oh no, as Heston said, I got to go. These are just some of the facts you ought to know as we go. Beneath the Minute of the Apes. Beneath the Minute of the Apes. Beneath the Minute of the Apes.
The only good human is a dead human.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time.
We're getting there.
I was doing my best to really do that stilted pause, kind of talk like Shatner, just sort of going on.
My God.
But that's where we are. So we are into Thursday. We are on minute 64. Without further ado, Sean, tell us what's going on with minute 64.
Didn't you just put some ado in there when you said without further ado?
Ado to the doo-doo.
Okay. We're just going to start minute 64 with one of the telepaths asking what sights did Brent see, and ends with one of the telepaths saying Mr. Brent.
Let's take a listen to minute 64 of Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
What sights did you see?
You're talking.
Well, certainly we can talk. It's a rather primitive accomplishment. We use it when we must.
When we pray.
When we sing to our God.
You mean that thing out there, an atomic bomb? You're God?
You don't understand, Mr. Brent. The bomb is a holy weapon of peace.
Holy weapon of peace. Holy weapon of peace.
Mr. Brent.
All right, as of minute 64, we've got 3 living humans, a psychor telepath, 4 dead humans, 1 dead ape, a shootness of apes, and a gaggle of humans.
I wonder if anyone that's come in late to this week and missed earlier when you say a psychor of telepaths are going, wait, what? Am I listening to Babylon 5 Beneath the Planet of the Apes?
Yay.
Okay, so we are into a point where they speak. They speak when they have to. Okay, doesn't that infer... So they speak to their God when they pray to it. Doesn't that infer that their God is a lesser life form? That when they have to, they speak.
That is what I was asking yesterday, saying why was the priest talking out loud whenever they considered that for lesser intelligence? So, yeah, they use their voices for religious reasons. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me.
They think God can't hear them if they don't speak out loud.
He can't hear the buzzing.
But then again, their God is a bomb.
It's a physical object, not a mental object. So, yeah.
So, I kind of get, and I kind of think it's very cool that they think the bomb is God, because if we start thinking of creationism, I'm sorry, not creationism, we want to think of biblical structures of the creation of the universe. The bomb created the world. It created all this molten look. It did all these kind of things. And that was their Big Bang.
But do they have...
It's a good way of thinking of it.
This history, this knowledge that we have now, because there's an attack, or there's a nuclear holocaust. They're living underground. Do they have a historical record of what science we had up until the point where the devastation occurred?
I mean, that all goes along to that conversation we had before. Do they still have the books, the history books and whatnot, or were all those things burned in the apocalypse? What do they understand about the Earth before it came? What were their lives leading up to this, that they created telepathy and led them to the point where they found this golden bomb and said, that's God.
God, yeah.
It's not what ruined our lives, and we could have had a life before it. We think about now that if whether it's global warming or whatever might eradicate the Earth, would people blame those things, or would suddenly everybody look upon global warming that the heat is the greatest thing in the world? That's almost what they're kind of saying here. It's an odd stretch.
Yeah.
This to me was kind of I know that we've really set up the the chimpanzee protesters and the guerrilla army going off to war, and we've set up this other people. We've seen a glimpse of the atomic bomb, but this referencing the bomb as a god really spoke to me that we've moved past the idea of race as a theme of the movie and moved specifically into the atomic era and bombs and war. This to me was the moment that was like, that's what this movie is truly about.
That's a really good point. And it makes me wish that it was more of a crescendo, that it had happened before, where we at least talked about what happened to the Earth and the atomic nature of it, that they had transcended to this. Because I think that we've searched for, what is this film about? It doesn't ring true. We've seen the people protest. We kind of thought, okay, they're trying to mimic protest and war and whatnot. And it's had, to me, I think the film up to this point had more to do with the preparation for war, which you could even still build in the preparation for war, the story of the ramifications of war.
Yeah.
And I wish that they had followed through on that throughput, because that's a great point, Richard.
So basically what they heard from the script was Fat Man saying, "What sights did you see?" And then Brent actually beginning to pull his hands off of his face and head and neck when he says, "You're talking," like suddenly he's realizing what's happening around him. And Casplay saying, "Certainly we can all talk. It's a rather primitive accomplishment. We use it when we have to. We pray, when we sing to our God." I did think for a moment, like, you guys sing? I don't want to hear that choir. Yeah, really. I was like, you do not look like the most joyful people to be singing. It might have made more sense if we'd actually gotten to see the kids outside that were doing Ring Around the Rosie and heard their stuff. That we got more sense of them having some type of joy around the bomb. That's when Brent comes in and says, you mean that thing out there, an atomic bomb? You're a god.
Which goes back to, we were wondering when he first went to the church, how if he would recognize that as an atomic bomb, because it was just a missile with no markings on it. And now
would you recognize an atomic bomb, or would you just think it's a bomb?
I would just think it was a missile of some sort.
Yeah, rocket missile.
Right.
Not necessarily an atomic bomb, yeah.
Well, I mean, I honestly don't know the military technology at the time, what the difference between something that size and shape might be. It might specifically be
when was the
atomic bomb.
The nuclear sign,
symbol.
The symbol. I wonder when that was created.
Well, I would assume
Mr. Google will
after
tell us.
So we do have some stuff that was either edited out or not shot. In the script, instead of saying, "You mean that thing out there, an atomic bomb, your God," he goes, "Your God, what a joke. You worship something that we made 2,000 years ago, an atomic bomb." As if he's telling him for the first time that, hey, that's an atomic bomb.
That's
if you
just
guys
a thing.
don't already know.
Yeah.
1946.
Man, there you go.
Fat Man replies to him, long sigh, "Ah, you've seen the bomb, Mr. Brent." And Brent says, "Above the altar in your cathedral, an obscenity." Mendez then jumps in, "Mr. Brent, you have beheld God's instrument on earth."
So the bomb's not
That's
God.
a cool idea.
Yeah, it's the finger of God.
It's almost like Jesus.
You ready?
The instrument upon earth.
Where you go. "For it is written that in the first year of the bomb, the blessing of the holy fallout descended from above, and my people built a new city in the blackened bowels of the old."
All right.
Why was that cut from the script?
I don't know.
That's essential to what happens in these minutes, that they would explain
why they live there. What
This is no different than whenever, we hear the ape society and the lawgiver and all these kind of things. Now you're building this rich world where you've got the lawgiver on the ape side and you've got the holy bomb that created this, and we ascended from that.
They crawled out of this moment and became a civilization, a society. Therefore, they see it as something
right
to worship, to like you were talking at the beginning of the minute, like what this means to them.
God, well, I wonder if they shot that. I don't
know. Brent keeps interjecting this entire time. Nonsense, utter nonsense. And then Mendez adds, "Blessed be the bomb everlasting, to whom alone we may reveal our inmost truth, and who we shall serve all our days in peace." And then Brent interjects, "Until you fired at the apes." And Brent then asks, "It's operational, isn't it?" And Brent says, "The firing mechanism is intact, isn't it?" And then we come back to the part that finishes out this minute. "You don't understand, Mr. Brent." And then finishes with, "The bomb is a holy weapon of peace," which they did actually put in this moment. So that last little bit.
God,
The bomb was a holy weapon of peace.
Shit.
I just wonder if they felt that was going off too much on a tangent, that they just didn't feel it was necessary, but that feels so incredibly necessary.
That feels like that's information that we would want to have.
That's crucial to the minute.
It also makes sense when, at the end of this minute, for whatever reason, Ongaro decides to give his mental buzz again to Brent to actually get him to writhe on the ground. This is the moment that happens.
Okay.
It makes sense if Brent was questioning this entire time. That's nonsense. That's utter nonsense. Until you fire to the apes, its operational isn't. The fire mechanism is intact. And like, you don't understand. It's a holy weapon of peace. And that makes sense why Ongaro would then come back at Brent to punish him briefly for questioning their god.
So why isn't Brent also, okay, so if the nuclear symbol was created in 1946, he obviously knew what a nuclear weapon was at that time. Why wouldn't he be questioning, do you not know what you'll do? If you set that bomb off at the apes, you're going to kill yourselves too. The mentality they have of what a nuclear bomb, we've talked about, would be the decimation of the entire Earth. Why wouldn't he question these things too? This isn't peace. You'll kill yourself. All these questions that should be thrown out, and they're not. It's this weirdness of, you've got a bomb. First off, where the does that thing launch? Because it's
going to destroy that church and everything.
Yeah, there's no roof to it.
Well, we have to accept the fact that this is a cult. So
Okay.
This is a cult, and logic surrounding what an atomic bomb could do to them is, new life, rebirth, whatever they want to think of it as.
So this is like the Genesis probe to them.
Exactly,
you blow
yeah.
it into a planet, and you're going to create new, and it's beautiful.
Exactly.
They're not
That's
afraid
kinda cool.
of the
They don't see it as
fallout.
necessarily something destructive.
However, why don't I hear these people saying, do you not realize that's why we are what we are? That we are the reality of the universe because of the
Would
bomb.
have been cool if he'd seen them in the church and had that entire conversation around it.
Ding! I swear to God, when we find the DeLorean, we're going back and rewriting this month film.
It was also, so this minute at the end, Ongaro comes back, gives the hypnosis, the terrible hypnosis or whatever they call it. And Brent actually finally falls to the ground. And I thought it was an odd choice. The movements of, first you have to hold your head because you're aside, so you're insane. Then you have to kind of cross your arms in front of you when you get the first terrible hypnosis pain. Yeah. Then when the voices come into your head, you're actually allowed to put your hands around your ears and your head and your neck. And then in this moment, when he's questioning what the bomb is, or at least partially, because some of it's taken out of the edit or the script, he then finally falls to the ground.
I find it, for me in this moment, what I found very odd is that there's no reverse cuts of him being tortured back to, Ongaro. Over Brent's shoulder back to Ongaro. So we don't have to linger on these horrendous reactions of Franciscus in pain. If you show the back of it where he's doing it, it somehow, now the pain is being inflicted. You see that. And I think that if they've at least brought that shot in, it wouldn't be so silly. We would at least, it's the same as if you see someone beating someone. You don't watch Indiana Jones with the whip and not see over his shoulder as he flicks somebody, so we know he's doing it to them.
Okay.
You just need that kind of moment. It's such a flat, silly moment.
Yeah. So we basically, the minute kind of ends with the Mr. Brent, and that's when Ongaro has stopped inflicting the pain, the terrible hypnosis, whatever it's called again. And he starts with Mr. Brent. So we kind of end in between the next statement that's about to start.
In mid-sentence for this minute.
But we know that they worship the bomb.
Yeah.
We got the sense that they did it in the church already, but now we know that that's what their society is really based on.
Right.
We know that they consider their society starting at the first bomb.
I find that such a wonderful concept that I wish was explored.
It was in there. It's not in there. We don't know why they were. Watching the movie, you would not know that.
It's the first minute of this week that's felt like I don't have a lot to say because of how much they've extracted from it.
Those generations of busts of Mendez would now make more sense too as well. Why they're, he's part of a dynasty of Mendez that have come through the beginning to now.
Maybe the first Mendez was the first telepath, and that's why they're in charge.
It would also give us a suggestion about why they have telepathic powers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some type of